and usually the way I think of my book ideas is I start writing them and see how it feels to me. And I'll write quite a bit. But, Nils is used to working in Minnesota. And in Minnesota, you kind of have to be Minnesota nice. A private eye can't be like a tough talking, head bashing kind of person in Minnesota, because if you're trying to get people to talk to you and give you information, and they'll just think you're not very polite and no thank you, I don't want to speak to you, and close the door. So he developed a very ingratiating style of talking to people. But when I got him out to Los Angeles, I just realized, that's not going to work out there, which I thought was really fun. He kind of got walked all over, and he had to start pushing back a little bit and getting a little devious. I don't want to give anything away, but there's that one scene when he's talking to an agent while they're waiting for the valet to get their cars, and then he does something that, I don't know if you remember that scene. The agent walks away to get on the phone.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. But he starts to do much more devious things than he would do in Minnesota.
Okay.
To earn their respect.
Did you have him kind of visit some of your old haunts, some of the places that you like to go?
Absolutely, yeah. And then I sent the character of Jameson White, who was introduced in Broken White. He played college football at UCLA, and he's going through a bit of a personal crisis. So Nils, to try to just get him out of Minneapolis and help him that way, and to be his kind of local tour guide, Nils brings Jameson with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but there's so much good. I mean, there's good crime fiction set in Minnesota, but there's legendary crime fiction set in Los Angeles. So I never wanted to make it my main setting, but I thought it would be fun to take Nils there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us, like a little sneak peek about the book you're working on currently?
This book is, it's not a Nils book. A man in his 40s goes to visit his retired parents down in South Carolina. And his dad has Lewy body dementia, which is a memory impairment that primarily affects the short-term memory and not the long-term memory. Okay. And his dad's really a talker. He always likes to talk and tell stories and things, but he can't remember what he had for lunch, but he remembers his kids' childhoods and his childhood very well. And so as he's telling more stories about when he grew up in this little town in South Carolina, a mystery kind of unfolds.
Okay.
And then there's a present day mystery as well. So this son, who's not an investigator, he owns a costume jewelry business. He's concerned that his dad could get in trouble for something. And he's trying to find out what really happened to save his dad's reputation. It's kind of a family mystery with something that took place in 1959, and then something that takes place while he's down there, and the two kind of dovetail together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sometime next year, right? 2022.
Yeah, I think summer of 2022.
Okay.
Forge is excited about it. They say they're going to make it a lead title. I hope they still do. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the term they use. Yeah. So
are you, I know you've been on the New York Best Times, so I'm assuming as an author, are you totally dependent on that as your career?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I wrote television for a long time. So, so I saved some money and downsized my life quite a bit. So I could just do this for a while. I did work on a TV show over the summer. I zoomed just like this. I zoomed into a writer's room because
Really?
everybody was Zooming. Yeah, nobody was meeting in
Yeah.
person.
Okay.
So, but I've made a decision to be done with Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I did it that way, worked out, or I would go there for short things, but I'm not going to move back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't do my normal intro that I normally do, and I'm not sure how much Joe and Ann that you know about Matt's background, but he used to be a television writer for Seinfeld, Ellen, The New Adventures of Old Christine, won an Emmy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, it's pretty impressive. So in addition to now becoming a New York Times novelist, best-selling novelist, he's had a very successful career in writing television, which was that a very difficult transition? I mean, to make, because you're looking at, episodes, these short, maybe 20
Yeah.
minute, whatever.
It wasn't a difficult transition for me because I'm so much happier writing alone than in a group. I mean, I
Okay.
like the other writers. I adore them. They're very smart and funny, but I'm pretty far on the introverted scale. So to spend that much, 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, at
Wow.
least, sometimes more than 12 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, it just wore me out.
Mhm.
Being around that many people.
Yeah.
By the way, I think this is not my house. This is a hotel room in Paducah, Kentucky. So don't think, oh, he lives well. It's a Holiday Inn. So then,
No judging.
uh,
I didn't think it looked that nice. No. When you're talking about LA.
yeah. So, because I'm driving back from South Carolina, I didn't want to fly yet. And I started there at 4 a.m, Minnesota time. There were those storms that were in Alabama and Mississippi, and they were coming to the Carolinas. So I had to leave early to avoid them, which worked.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad. Ann, do you have any questions so far? You could unmute yourself. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm rereading Broken Ice, and
Mhm.
I love the hockey tournament angle, and I used to actually live on the west side, right up on top of those Wabasha caves.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah. In fact, we used to go up and down those steps. They're like 4 stories worth of metal steps that go up down
Yeah.
to Robert Street. Is it what, Robert Street there? No. Whatever it is. Anyway.
Wabasha, is
Wabasha.
it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Wabasha. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote a historical novel that takes place in St. Paul in 1922 that my current publisher made an offer on it and I declined it. I just didn't think that was the right publisher to do that book, but we're still looking for the right home for it. I hope it comes out next year also, because it's 100 years after when the book takes place,
Okay.
but we'll see.
Do you have a title for that one?
Yeah, it's called The Prohibited.
Okay.
Um,
I love St. Paul. I love all your books anyway, because it is fun, because it's like, oh, I've been there. Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah.
But I love St. Paul. So anytime, books are taking place there.
Yeah, I'm seriously thinking of moving to St. Paul next year. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, the Grand Avenue Summit, the Crocus Hill kind of areas.
Yeah.
Really fun.
One thing, I think it was pretty much pandemic motivated, but I can't write books all the time. So I was thinking, well, maybe I should teach part-time. And then I don't have an MFA, and on a whim, I applied to Hamlin's MFA creative writing program, and they accepted me, like the idiots. So I'm so that also is Zoom. So I'm taking a couple of classes. I don't know if I'll stick with it or not. Everybody's great, but yeah. So I am a student at Hamlin, even though I've never been there. But I would like to get a
Not at
sweatshirt.
the Iowa workshop like everybody else.
Pardon me?
I said, you're not at the Iowa workshop like everybody else.
Both of my professors went to the Iowa workshop. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably too old to go to the Iowa workshop, although I would like to. So yeah, St. Paul is quite lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, I can't remember who, but they said St. Paul is where the East Coast ends and Minneapolis is where the West Coast starts. And it really does feel that way to me. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
See
St.
that?
Paul does feel like a Eastern town more to me,
Mm-hmm.
and Minneapolis like a Western town.
Yeah. So, and I think I asked you this when we met, online
Mhm.
Monday. The Nils series, will you continue with him at some point?
I would like to. I don't know. I have in all 4 books mentioned that he kind of made his name on something called the Duluth murders.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to write that as a prequel,
Sure.
kind of a standalone prequel. And, but I'm not sure yet. I have a contract for 2 more books, 2 more non-Nils books,
Okay.
2 standalones, and then I'll see what happens.
Okay. How much influence or control does your publisher have over some of those things?
Well, they have to approve the book area, the story area, but it's really just a paragraph.
Okay.
And I'm about to kind of run 3 different ideas by them for the next book that comes out in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't just write whatever I want. I can, but they don't have to publish it. So, and I have a nice relationship with them. So I want them to be excited about the book, so they get behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to stay focused? Like, I know before you were talking about being stuck in a room with all these people for 16 hours and you'd rather write alone. But is it hard for you to, okay, whether it's a Nils Shapiro or the book that you're currently wrapping up?
No, book writing and I are a good fit. So I tend to get up very early because there are fewer distractions then. But I've never missed a deadline or ever come close to missing a deadline. I think a combination of a Midwestern work ethic and what a TV writer has to do, which is a lot, has really prepared me well to be a novel writer.
Okay.
So people think I write a lot, and they don't know how I do it like year after year, come out with a book. But to me, I could write 2 books a year.
Okay.
And I work almost 7 days a week. I do work 7 days a week, maybe once a month, or I'll take a day off. But and I do that not so much for work ethic, but just to keep the story active in my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you work like so many hours a day, or do you just write until you need to take a break? Or
I usually go by word count. which will be anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 words a day. And on days it's going great, I might do it in a couple hours. And on days where it's not going great, it might take me all day. So kind of depends. I don't outline it all.
You don't do an outline?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Everybody should do what works for them, but I'm a firm believer in not outlining.
Do you know how your book's going to end? So you know where you want to get to? Or does it kind of change from book to book?
It changes from book to book. It's really a leap of faith going in. But because I've worked on so many stories, I've worked on almost 500 episodes of TV. I wasn't the writer, but I was one of the writers who developed the story concept and helped outline it. And once the script came in, do rewrites on drafts and then see the actors rehearse it and do more rewrites. And so I developed a sense of story over that time because it wasn't my strongest suit when I started. So I can kind of feel when something's working or not working.
Okay.
And I think that's why I don't outline. I also think that if you make an outline, you're using that part of your brain like that makes a shopping list, kind of. And you're kind of constructing the shell of a story, and then you put your characters in it and you try to make it work that way. And I'd rather have the just like create characters and set them on conflicting paths and write it from the inside out. I mean, I do, and then I can go back and use my craft after the fact to make sure everything's working.
Sure.
But also when you don't outline, your first draft is an outline. It just happens. But I just find a lot can happen when the characters are up and on their feet and interacting with each other, and it just creates situations and dynamics from which story can come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Donna, you're on mute. Let's see.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So when you're done writing for the day, do you know where you're going to, do you know what's going to come for the next day for your writing?
Almost always.
Okay.
That would be that's a good question. That would be a tough situation if I didn't know where it was going to go the next day. I have a pretty good idea. Once in a while I get stuck, which is okay. I actually heard another author, Jennifer Egan, who wrote Manhattan Beach,
Okay.
and another big book, something about the Goon Squad. She does the same thing I do. And she said when she gets stuck, she might have a frustrating day or two while she's trying to figure out what happens next. But because she doesn't outline and she's not following this kind of left brain path she gave herself, that the answer when it does come will come more from her subconscious, and then that creates a story that's more unique to her. So you're less likely to do something that's been done or
more like a formula.
Yeah. So but at the end of the day, if I don't know what I'm doing the next day, I think about it quite a bit for that evening. So I have something
keep you awake?
It can, but I'm fairly, as I was saying earlier, I'm fairly organized, and I don't get behind. So I'm not in a panicky place. I haven't been there yet, I should say.
Okay.
Knock on fake wood at the Holiday Inn.
Okay.
but I have quite enjoyed the book writing process and the community, especially. I mean, it's really the only, I know some authors who write literary fiction and horror fiction. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Wendy Webb, who writes the Gothic. She's a Minnesota author who writes books set up around Duluth, those Gothic mansions, kind of horror or
Okay.
ghost stories. But I've met a lot of mystery, thriller, suspense writers, and it's really a lovely community of really supportive. There's this feeling in that I had no idea I was getting into this, but there's a kind of a general feeling among the crime writers that if one book does well, it's good for all of us, which is absolutely true. I mean, if you look what Harry Potter did for kids' books,
Right.
it's true for all books, but I don't think it's like I've heard the romance writers are a bunch of backstabbers. I mean, I've heard that they don't have a very strong, tight-knit community, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're all kind of in it together. And one exciting thing is there's a few of them, but the biggest crime fiction convention each year, it has a weird name. It's called Boucher Con, named after a person named Anthony Boucher, who was a critic in the 1950s.
Okay.
But it's for readers and writers. And for the readers who come, they get to go say hello to all their favorite authors, go listen to them speak on panels, just walk up and talk to them. And it's in a different city every year. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because in 2022, it's going to be in Minneapolis.
Wow.
So for people who like crime fiction, it's really a fun thing to go see.
What is it called? Boucher?
It's Boucher, Boucher Con, CON, all one word.
Okay.
Now last year it was canceled because of the pandemic.
Okay.
It was in Sacramento. This year it's supposed to be in New Orleans in late August, and we'll see if it happens.
Okay.
But if it doesn't happen, the one in Minneapolis is going to be humongous because
Yeah. I know this isn't even close. It's kind of backing up just a little bit when you were talking about like the organization or just all of the different crime writers in the state of Minnesota. A few years ago, we had a panel. We hosted a panel from some of the members of Sisters in Crime came down. And so we had a moderator, and then I think that who was also an author, and then 4 authors, and we had a pretty good turnout. I'm not sure if
Yes, it was at the
they're a good group.
At the
City
library.
Hall.
Well,
Was it
no,
at the
this one was
library?
at the library. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we had a good turnout, and it was just really fun because it was exactly as you said. These people were all, oh, hey, these are my books, but you really should be reading, Lucy's books. And it was just nice because they each, because everybody, you all write differently and you all have a different kind of take on how you approach it, and just the genre in general is, it's very unique. And everybody was just so supportive of each other. And then the more that they talked, you could just see how they each came at it differently. And but we're very supportive of each other and recommending each other.
Yeah, it's a really strong group in Minnesota.
Well, and I think there are hundreds of members, I believe.
Of Sisters in Crime?
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. I never realized that there were so many Minnesota authors. So
there are. Minnesota's a very booky place for authors and readers.
Long winters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you're absolutely right. And good public schools. That combination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good libraries.
And libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah, the libraries have been very supportive of me, so I always try to support them. Yeah.
But we'll definitely try to have you back maybe when one of the next books comes out and we can do
Yeah,
a live
maybe
one.
next summer, not this summer, next summer when the new book comes out, I'll come down.
Yeah, I'll be in
I'll be
touch
happy.
once things
Yeah.
get open again.
I'll be happy to. Yeah.
Are we done already?
No, we're
No,
not done
no, no,
already.
no.
Another
We
question.
don't have to be done. No, we can talk about whatever you want to
Oh,
talk
okay,
about.
so
Yeah.
this is gonna sound kind of judgmental, and it probably is. I'll just own that. But when you talk about this community of mystery writers, I don't care how many mystery books I read, they're all different.
Mhm.
But when you mention the romance books, and this is the judgmental part, I'll own that.
Right.
Is
I know
that
where
when
you
you read one, you've just read them all.
I'm gonna thank you for that information, Donna, because now I don't have to read any.
We should read one. You should read
Yeah.
one. I could recommend one.
Yeah, Nora Roberts.
Very close, very close.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to put them down because a lot of people really
Yeah.
enjoy those books. I mean, they
They
go in
do.
and out like crazy at the library, but
Mhm.
it just seems like, I remember when I first read Danielle Steele, I think it was, and oh my God, I just devoured that book. Then I read the second one. I thought, well, it was okay. And then I read the third one about halfway through. I thought, I have read all of these books.
Yeah.
You know, why
Yeah.
is it that they're so similar when there's mystery books, there's all these different things that happen that are just, I guess it's like boy meets girl, boy doesn't like girl. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm not an expert on the romance, I can only talk about the mystery side. I mean, and I'll just tell a little story about how I got started writing these books, because it's gonna lead exactly to what you're talking about. You know, I was a comedy writer for a long time, and I worked on shows like Seinfeld that I feel are really very human.
Mhm.
Those characters, you know, people say that show is about nothing. I think it was about selfishness. They were all very selfish, those four characters. What made it funny is they acted upon their selfishness in a way most of us would not. But we could relate to where it came from, their insecurities and their self-doubt and their anxiety. And so I found that to be very human. And shortly after that show was done, the drama world blew up. Shows like The Sopranos and The Wire and Breaking Bad, and even on network TV, shows like The Good Wife, they were so good, those shows. And drama became the it thing in Hollywood. That was the cool thing to do. And they were getting all the attention, even more so than movies. And so what happened is the executives in comedy thought, we're going to try to make the comedies cool like the dramas. But, you know, like I said, comedies are not cool. The characters they represent all our flaws and insecurities. You know, shows like Frasier, you know, he's a goofball, and Lucille Ball and the Cheers characters.
Cheers.
You know, they're very human, but they're flawed, and that's why we love them. And so when they started coming out with shows with characters that were a little slicker and sharper and talked in jokes more, I lost interest in writing it. And I thought, I'm watching drama, I think I'll watch drama. I mean, I'll write drama. And to do my homework for drama, I started reading crime fiction. I've always been a big reader, but I was kind of a literary fiction snob. I don't know why. I mean, I was writing sitcoms. I had no reason to be a fiction snob. But when I started reading crime fiction, I fell in love with it because, and this is what you're talking about, when you have a crime at the center of your story, when there's a dead body and clues coming along, or a missing person, whatever it is, there's kind of a built-in engine to the story, and it frees up some space for your characters to be people, and you can focus on their character and on their relationship, because they don't have to carry the whole weight of the story, which is something I wasn't expecting to find at all. And when that happened, I really fell in love with the genre and decided, I think I just want to do this. But I think the reason that there's so many, because it's about, I mean, crime exposes all sorts of facets of the human condition. There's people who are kind of evil, like psychopaths, and then there's the crime stories that I usually write, which is like, what would it take to get a normal person to commit a crime? Because that's very interesting to me. And so you get all these different ways that it happens, and how people get drawn into it and their attitudes about it. And I think that's why there's so much difference in the crime fiction world. So, and I think you might be right, like boy meets girl, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many ways you can go with that.
Right. And it's always going to end up the same, you know.
Yes.
So, whereas a crime story, you just don't know where it's going to take you.
No, you don't.
Right.
Hopefully you don't. Yeah.
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 Thank you. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Have you ever switched like killers? Like if you, like, were you writing and you have this one person in mind for a?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I did in my first book.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Who was supposed to be I'm not sure.
Has everybody read it? I don't want.
Yes, I have. Has everybody else read it?
Oh, Dawn to Dusk, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initially,
We all read that. I
Okay.
does anybody not want me to say?
Tell us.
No, we want to
All
know.
right. So
Spill.
originally it was gonna be the neighbor woman Beth. And then I switched it to Perry, and then I changed the reason he did it. That was the first one I wrote, so I was really feeling my way through it.
Okay.
But the second one and the third one I knew from the beginning. And in the fourth one, I didn't know who did it. I just wanted to create some real viable suspects. And then about maybe 30% of the way into the book, I did. Usually when I write, like, I don't know exactly what the book's about. And once I know, then it changes everything. Like Gone to Dust which I didn't know. I figured it out about 25% of the way through. It's about the more harmful facets of love. I mean, when love gets not constructive, and it gets it has like a dark side to it too, if it's not managed correctly. So that's what that book was about to me. So that's why I don't know if you remember that book, but like Nils has a very complicated relationship with his ex-wife. It's still not resolved. That's nothing like my life, by the way. People always ask. I'm like, no. But the way I got to that was because once I had that crime and once I figured it out, I mean, you asked me earlier about that crime scene with the dust.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to create a crime scene that couldn't be solved in the lab. And the reason I wanted to do that was so that the inexperienced Edina Police Department would have to call in help. They didn't know what to do. And then because it couldn't be solved with science, that gave us a reason to back into Nils' personal life so he could draw from his experience during his investigation. So I completely backed into that personal life for him, so he would have insight into the crime.
Right. Let's see. Other questions people have?
I apologize for being late, and I'm kind of sick about missing the first part, but I see you're recording this, Stacy.
I am, but I forgot to press the button right away. So
Serves
But
me right.
I know
we were kind of shooting the breeze for a while.
we
Oh,
were.
good. Okay.
Yeah,
were.
so you
Okay.
didn't miss
All
too
right.
much.
I'll
Yeah.
catch up.
Yeah.
But
Thank you
And
very
then
much.
I showed up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks, Joe.
but I thank you very much for
first
doing this.
one, yeah.
It's such a pleasure to listen to authors talk.
oh, it's my
Mhm.
pleasure. I really like to connect with readers, especially through the libraries.
Yeah.
It's awfully nice. Yeah, it's been a whole year of not doing it in person.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully summer of 2022, I'll be down there.
Yeah. Well, and we
talk-
usually don't do things in the summer because we
I'll
just don't
come in
get
the
the
spring or the fall then.
yeah. But we'll figure all those details out
Yeah.
later. But because you talked about the
Historical.
historical novel, that's the Prohibitive.
The
Is that what you call-
Prohibited.
The Prohibited.
Yeah.
And then and that, so do you have 2 books coming out then next
Well, I don't
year?
know if that one's going to come out.
Oh, okay.
I had an
That's a
offer on it.
possible.
I didn't accept it, and now we're looking for another publisher.
Okay. But then your other one you're working on now is coming out next year.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you have a title for that one or not yet?
Right now it's Carolina Moonset.
Okay.
I hope that doesn't change, but it might.
Okay.
That Prohibited sounds really good. I thought you got to
does.
get that published. I
Yeah.
want to read it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I think
We're
there'd be a
working
lot
on
of
it.
interest
Yeah.
in that one.
Okay.
All right. I guess that is there anything else you wanted to mention about your writing process or well, let me ask you this. Who are some of the authors you read? I'd be interested in hearing that. Who are some of the ones you like to?
I always freeze up on this question.
Oh, sorry. I should have thought to warn you about it.
I read a lot of crime fiction, but I also read non-crime fiction. But almost always fiction.
Okay.
The authors that I like there's a Norwegian author named Joe Nesbo,
Mm-hmm.
who I like quite a bit. Yeah, I like Kent Kruger. There's an English author named Anthony Horowitz,
Mm-hmm.
who
wrote
a book called Magpie Murders that I strongly recommend. It's a mystery within a mystery. Who else do I read? I devoured Raymond Chandler when I started reading this genre. But I read Laura Lippman, Megan Abbott, Rachel Housel Hall. There's a Southern writer named Ace Atkins.
Yep, we have his.
I adore his. His books are different from mine, but he kind of does a Southern. His Quinn Colson character, those Mississippi books I really like. This year, what did I read? I read a book this year called Blacktop, Wasteland by Sean Cosby. I don't know if you have it in the library, but it made a pretty big splash in the writing community this year, in the mystery writing, that I liked very much. African-American author in the South.
Okay.
He wrote a really good book. I know as soon as I hang up, I will remember everybody. I just like the book I just finished was actually a nonfiction book about fiction written by George Saunders.
Okay.
He wrote a book called A Swim in the Pond in the Rain that analyzes 7 Russian short stories. Tolstoy, Chekhov, Turgenev, there's one other author, but it's really interesting. He's mostly a short story writer, but he did write a novel a couple years ago called Lincoln in the Bardo.
Yes.
And then he's written some short story collections like 10th of December that he's a really interesting writer.
Whenever oh, go ahead.
I was going to say my favorite crime fiction that doesn't get categorized as crime fiction, but it completely is, but it's so literary, is Donna Tartt. She wrote The Goldfinch.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can't remember the name of her first book.
Something with the garden, like
I'm going to look really quick because it's going to bother me because I read The Goldfinch first, and then it was about kids at a college in Vermont.
Yeah, I read that one. And disclosure here, I read half of The Goldfinch and I didn't finish it because I didn't like it.
Yeah, the first time I read it, I did that too. But then I tried it again, and then I got obsessed with it. The Secret History is the other one.
Yes, I read that one.
Yeah. So she writes long books, and but both of those, they're completely crime fiction, like from page 1, just about.
But I feel like she gets in their heads. Like they seem very psychological to me. It's like you just really have a sense of, what they're thinking and their motivations. And so from what
what other books I like, and she got herself in a little hot water with some tweets. J.K. Rowling writes as Robert Galbraith.
Yes, I like those.
Cormoran
Strike. That's it.
Yeah.
Cormoran Strike.
Yeah, Cork O'Connor's Kent's character. Yeah. I really like those books. And just like the Harry Potter books, they keep getting fatter and fatter and fatter as she goes. The last one was 900 pages. There's a relationship at the center of those books that's really interesting and that you really root for. So that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not the center of it, but it's there.
Right.
And I like her imperfect protagonist. I mean, he's a
great PI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really like those books.
Didn't they make some movies out of some of those books, Stacy?
They like a series. I don't know if it was in Canada or England.
Okay.
We had a couple of them.
It's in England, and they were on Cinemax here, and now they're on HBO Max, whatever they call the HBO streaming site now, HBO Max. They're quite well done.
Yeah.
It's a few episodes per book. They do them very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had gotten the 2 of the DVDs, and then
good.
It went out quite a bit. We have to replace one of them because one of them never came back. But yeah, no, those are really good. I think they do a pretty good job with the book 2 series.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? Thank you for tuning in tonight.
Thank you for coming and doing this. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much, Matt. I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing those new books. The one for sure next year, and hopefully the other one as well. And, but I'll definitely be in touch about, once we're able to have, actual live events again.
great.
So I'll, we can touch base next year about that. Last chance for questions, anybody?
Is it time for popcorn?
It's always time for popcorn.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone,
Have
for
a good night,
Yeah,
joining.
everybody.
thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.